Welcome to Hello Me, It's Me, Vulnerable AF, a podcast hosted by Nikki D. Lovely. That's really just her diary disguised as a podcast, but who cares? You're here for it. Join in as she addresses her self-reflections on life, love, and dating, and gives us all the tea by being more vulnerable than she ever has, with herself and the world. So let's get started in today's episode with Nikki D. Lovely, already in progress.
Welcome to another episode of Hello Me, It's Me, Vulnerable SF. And today we have Nickole with us. So I was going to say, hi, everyone. I want to welcome Nickole. Nickole, introduce yourself. She is a single mom who is dating, correct?
Yeah, child. Nickole Yvette over here dating in these single streets. Ask me how I'm doing. Man. And it just depends on what day you ask, because sometimes I'm out here and sometimes I'm like, throw the whole thing away, baby included. No pun intended, because it is interesting nonetheless. Makes for great conversations. I'll say that.
I mean, at least we're getting something out of it, right?
You have to.
So I think we have talked before in another podcast, but we were talking about dating and being single parents. I'm probably going to post that one first. Dating and single parents, but now we want to talk about being single, dating, and celibate. If we didn't have enough to add on top of what we were
going to say, if it ain't hard enough.
If it wasn't hard enough, you want to add celibacy on top of it.
Right.
And you brought this topic up. This is a topic that you said you wanted to talk about. So let's go into that. Why? Why do you want to talk about this subject of all subjects?
Well, because I think I think it's so important when it comes to, especially dating from a feminine perspective. I hate to use the word like from a female perspective, because you got female reptiles and female dogs. From the feminine perspective or the woman's perspective, I think there's more of us that are intentional about celibacy while we're dating and then for different reasons. And I guess, honestly, because I just recently saw somebody state this, and then I did my own Webster Dictionary understanding the difference between celibacy and abstinence.
Oh, yeah. Let's definitely go into that.
I feel like I'm abstinent because, celibacy, from what I understand, is just an indefinite commitment, like, a priest or a nun or somebody who's like, I'm just swearing off sex forever.
Or I thought celibacy was, well, go ahead, because I thought celibacy, and you may be right, was the fact that you have people who they're going to be abstinent until they find their one.
Yeah, abstinence until they find their one, or they might have abstinence until they get married, or, they have an end goal.
Yes, there's an end goal. And that's what celibacy, right?
Celibacy is you don't have an end goal. Celibacy
is no end goal.
Yeah, I'm just indefinitely going to be non-sexual. And then abstinent is like I'm gonna refrain from sex, or restrain. What's the right word I'm looking for? Refrain from sex until I get A, B, C, or D.
Okay,
or, reasons for it.
Let's actually just look it up. And because I've seen this on TikTok a lot, especially from the religious groups. They're like, you can't say you're celibate if you had sex before. So let's just see what it says. It says celibacy is the state of being unmarried and therefore sexually abstinent, usually in association with the role of a religious official or devotee. In its narrow sense, the term is applied only to those for whom the unmarried state is the result of a sacred vow, act of renunciation, or a religious conviction. So, baby, I am not celibate. Okay. It's good to know. I have been saying I was celibate, and it is incorrect. So let's do abstinence. Never mind. Abstinent. It's actually in the definition of celibacy.
NBE.
Okay. So abstinent. Let's go into abstinent. Abstinent is refraining from activity or from the consumption of something, especially alcohol. Okay, so you can use abstinence for anything. But we have something that says, what's the difference? Abstinence is a temporary decision to avoid sexual activity while celibacy is a lifestyle choice to abstain from sexual activity. Abstinence, a decision to not have sex, often for a limited amount of time. Celibacy, a commitment to never have sexual or romantic relationships, can be a lifelong commitment, can be a choice made for other reasons such as personal growth or purity. Well, that just makes everything much more complicated again.
Right? Because we didn't have enough going on. Let's just add another layer. More layers and more layers. More layers.
We just redefine words all the time. So
I think it evolves to words and definitions. It evolves with the culture, evolves with the times, because growing up in church, and I grew up in the church, which has kind of shaped a lot of my celibacy journeys over the last 2 decades of my life. And so, like, I've had when I was celibate or abstaining while I was a virgin. And then I was monogamous with one partner. And then after we broke up, I call myself being abstinence by default because I just, didn't really have the stomach to try and get out there with anybody else. And then, I did have a season where I was abstaining for, I can't remember the correct term for this, but it's when you're abstaining from sex to like reuse the energy that you would get from sexual stimulation, and you're kind of resurging it in your own body. So I intentionally so it wasn't like any spiritual reasons like it had been in the past. It was just to like my own personal experiment to see if I could, do it and rechannel that energy. And it was with that intentionality in my mind, it was actually very productive and effective. I found myself moving forward a lot of my emotional growth in that season. I found myself moving forward in my, vision for my life as far as career and just moving forth in a positive light. It was because there was no distraction of sex because I was like, it's off the table. So whether I'm dating somebody or not, it's off the table. And then the lockdown happened and I met my youngest son's father literally 3 days before the lockdown. And then it was like we were active during that season. And so now, after we've been broken up for like about 3 years now I feel but I don't have any real purpose behind it, if that makes sense, other than I just want to vet the people that I'm involved with before I give that part over again, because I noticed how much more attached I am when I'm sexually intimate with somebody.
And let's talk about that, because you just said I don't have any reason to do it except for I'm vetting. I need the time to vet the people that I'm with that I intend or could possibly intend to have sex with, right? And so that's the reason. And that's a valid reason.
Yeah. Well, when I think of like people's purpose, it's like, oh, I'm gonna wait till marriage, and that was because like I said, I was raised in the church and under that purity culture, that was heavy. Right. Like we didn't really know. We just knew that we was going to go to hell if we had sex. And so that was the goal behind abstaining. Right. And so I don't have like marriage as the end goal this time to abstain. However, I do have the expectation to abstain for me to vet the person and know that I love them enough to want to share that and that they love me enough to want to share that. Because when you throw it all away and just do it for the feeling, then, you crouching behind somebody's bushes at 12 o'clock in the night trying to see if somebody else is coming up to their house because you done lost your mind and you having an episode where you spiraling out of control in your head because you let the person into a very intimate and very vulnerable space. And it's not just sexual or physical, it's emotional and it's mental, and it can be the ultimate mind if it's not done properly. I feel like there is a right way to do it and vetting that person first. Because let me ask you this. How many people do we have in our, in our past that is like, they didn't deserve it. They shouldn't have got it. Why did that person have it? I mean, I know it shapes us But I can honestly say there's a couple people in my past that I'm like, I wish I didn't with them,
Mm-hmm.
And so going forward, I just don't want to add any more people like that to my list, my number, I guess.
I think it speaks a lot to the culture too. The fact that you feel like you just like you said, you go back and you think about the amount of people that you actually did it with, where you were like, why did I do that? The amount of situationships that have come up within the last 5 to 6 years where people don't want to settle down or commit to what is this and what are we doing, because they want to leave their options open and without feeling like they're tied down to something. I think women have gotten to this point where they're just kind of tired of being in the gray zone. And then when you think about it too, just as you said, some of those people that you've been with who were undeserving, it's kind of like I was giving it away and got nothing out of this but a heartache and, like you said, behind the bushes. So
that part right there, Nikki, I got nothing out of it when it was all said.
You got nothing out of it, but the next day, it's like you're feeling like crap. You're feeling like, why did I do that? So I think your process is good. It's the same reason as me. I still say celibate. I'm still going to use the word celibate because I was abstinent for a purpose. I always do this. I go like these long periods of time. After my divorce with my husband, I was abstinent for about 5 years. And then one day, I'm just like, all right, I'm done. I'm done.
The itch is real and it needs to be scratched.
Listen, and I'm good. I'm good. I'm like, and then I can just hold off for another 5 years. That's how I do it. I did another 5-year stint from 2014 to from 2017 to 2023. I did my 5-year stint for the cause of getting myself together, actually going to therapy. I was like, I don't need any of the emotional roller coaster rides that men bring into my life. I just need to center on myself, decenter men and center me. And that's what I did. And then coming out into the gate, I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a go. I did, I broke my record, which I tell people, like, I did a 5-year stint. I made sure I put it in past tense because I did
the time and I did it hard. I did the hard time and I did it.
I did stop. I did my 5 years, right? I did my 5 years and then I was like, all right, good. So I'm like you. I'm not doing it for a religious reason. My end goal, though, is to be with someone that I really see myself being with long term, not just overnight. But just last night, I went out on a date. Very nice. It was actually a really nice time. We went out for drinks. Then we went for a walk and got tacos to this little bar. Then we went dancing to like this little club, and I ain't been to a club in a while.
Listen, when I say y'all, Nikki be getting her dates in, she's the one be back on the date now. So I was like, this girl is going on some dates. I want some dates. You use it. Okay, bet. And sure enough, when I got on that app, it was like they was coming in like, I was like, oh, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, child, like since our first reconnecting, at least 15, give or take, dates. Yeah, I've been getting them in.
Okay, so you talk about me, but let me go back and say, last night it was a nice date, and at the end of the night, you know how I had some drinks. We had a shot at the end, but anyway, you know how it's a nice date. I was feeling him, but he was like, so and I hate this. He's like, so what do you want to do? And I'm thinking, this is the end of the date. This is where you let me get back in my car and tell me to have a nice night and text me when you get in. This is not the time.
Let's do this again.
Wait, say it again.
And let's do this again.
Yes.
I can't wait you again.
Let's do this again. I can't wait to see you again. This is not the time where you ask me, what else do you want to do? And I was like, it was
Because
so
you know
good.
what? I think that's what brings us to the whole reason why I wanted to talk about it, and the question when it comes to dating and abstinence or celibacy is communication or not communication, you know? Because me, I don't put it out there that I'm celibate.
No.
I don't put it out there that I'm dating. I just, because my hope and dream is for it to just flow naturally. My hope is
Exactly.
like find somebody who values court and is going to do the work and is in the time, and sex doesn't even the conversation, you know? So I don't feel like I need to give the disclosure. I'm abstinent. Don't ask me. I just, if for whatever, let's just say we're in like date 6 or 7 and you're kind of wondering like, hey, are you doing a 90-day rule or something? There's no mind sharing like, well, I'm just making sure that I really care for the person and the person cares for me.
Exactly.
Before I take it there. But when you get to that question or the end of the night, then I feel, and I don't know, maybe it's a catch-22 or a double standard, but I feel like maybe if the men will let that be known up front, like that's what I'm looking for, then I don't waste my time with you. I don't waste my night with you. I don't waste my outfit. I don't waste my getting up and the effort, because I know that's all you really want, then I'm not going to waste my time. Or I don't know, sometimes I feel like men, they hover in this place where they want this relationship and they want that person that they'll go the distance for and wait.
But they
know sex. Like immediately when they meet you, like you're not it, but let me see if I can still get this out of you.
I've also heard guys say that me and my girl had sex on the first night and we've been together for X amount of years now. So it's like, so which one is it? Do you respect or disrespect people who do that, or do you not? I don't get it.
So let me ask you, do you feel the need to let them know up front that you're abstaining, or is it more like a let them find out type situation? Because is it fair to just let them find out? But especially if I don't have no end goal, because.
But you do. No, you keep saying that. You keep saying that. You do have an end goal. So my thing is this. My end goal is I want to be in a committed relationship with someone before I have sex. That's my end goal. Also, my end goal is that I don't think that I know someone for sure until 3 to 4 months have passed. So if you're willing to invest that time, then great. If not, that's what the first conversations are for. Do I disclose in the first 2-3 conversations that I'm celibate? It depends on what's brought up. So if sex is brought up, I will say I am abstaining from sex until I am with someone that I want to be with, or until we're in an exclusive relationship. I will tell them. Yeah. But I'm not just volunteering the information. I don't have it on my profile. I don't think it's valuable until, like you said, it comes up. Until the conversation comes up, and I'm only swiping on people who say they're looking for long-term anyway. So if you try to show up to me at a date and it says long-term in your profile, but then at the end of the night, you just like, so what we trying to do? I'm like, well, what are you looking for? Because that was not the discussion that we had in the beginning. And so now I'm confused. So that's to them to explain to me. But I have seen some women who say they put it in their profile, which me personally, I don't think that that's necessary, because somebody who's genuinely trying to get to know you, if they say they're looking for long term, you shouldn't be trying to get sex with me on the first night anyway. That's my personal opinion. It's just showing me your character. So for me to tell you I'm celibate, I want to see your character. I want to see how you're going to play this out. That's my personal opinion.
I've seen guys come across like maybe 2 or 3 profiles of guys saying it.
That they're celibate?
So, on their profile. And I'm like, if I'm honest, I believe them.
Yeah.
I think it's just a tactic for them. I think that a lot of times when they say that they're celibate, that they're actually not, but trying to get the woman.
They're trying to get the Christian woman.
Yeah. But they're trying to get her to initiate. I think it's for me, I immediately think it's a mind game. They're about to play ultimate mind game. Because again, like you and I, if you're abstaining, then it's something that will just naturally happen. You're just going to come in, winning a court, doing the work to court. And then, if I'm one of those women that are like, well, what's up? Why aren't we doing anything? Then you have that conversation. But I've heard a lot of times, like, men that have had their stories where they'll say that they're celibate, and then the women, it like turns them on, and then they get mad or they start questioning their sexuality. If they're like, no, I'm really abstaining, and then and start to flip it on them because I guess they're not able to use their sexuality to get what they want, or it's something triggers off in them, like, I want to try harder to get this person. Why can't I get him? And so that's why I think when a guy has to put that up front of his profile, that he's using that tactic based upon that narrative, if that makes sense.
I have seen a group of guys who are trying to decenter women as well and be celibate. So but I have yet to see any man put celibacy on their profile. So like, I have not come across that at all. So I don't know where your men are coming from. I haven't seen it at all. And I've seen a lot of profiles. So for you to see it several times.
Yeah, but it's been like 2 or 3 and I only matched with one. And then it was just one of those situations where when I did my little surface dive on what he was, a lot of other weird stuff came up and I was like,
yeah,
let me back on up one, like this one.
Yeah, the Andrew Tate type,
Yeah, it was. But it was Andrew Tate. It was a lot of conspiracy theories. It was just the that was put out there was very weird, to the point where it made me want to block immediately. I blocked everything.
Yeah.
Just in case, because I don't want you, I spell my name a little bit different than all the other Nicoles. So it's like I'm easy to find on my social media profile. So I don't want you to come for me. But but when I say like 2 or 3, that's it. Now I've come in contact with a man that has, told me that he is, other than on their profile. So
okay,
it's interesting to hear you say that there is a group of guys that are trying to decenter women as well, because that's, where we are, on the female side or the feminine side of things too. We're like in this place where we're decentering and we're just trying to focus on ourselves. And then if it happens, it happens. If it don't, I'll be okay,
How do you respond to, well, you say you don't tell people about it up front, but when you do tell them, what kind of responses have you gotten?
Well, honestly, I haven't come across anybody that I've been on, like, when I say 15, it's been 15 first dates. Like, I haven't gotten past that. And most of the time when guys are talking about sex in the first conversation of the first date, I'm already turned off. So I don't even go down the I'm celibate road, because they've already let me know, already showed that card. This is what you think of me. This is all you want from me. And so I just write them off from that point on.
What advice would you give someone considering celibacy while dating? And what red flags should celibate daters watch out for?
Well, definitely if you're trying to have sexual conversations from the jump. Like, I will never understand from the life of me how there's been times, like, while I'm still chatting with somebody in the app, and you're already talking about the things that you want to do to me, and or like, if we haven't even gone on our first date and you're sending me random pics of yourself, like, that's always going to be a red flag, because you're letting me know, like, to know if this is how you see me or this is just who you are.
Yeah.
Either way.
Well, right. That's just who they are. Because for some, they don't even know you and they sending you stuff. I had some guys ask me that I want some GAD. And I was like, just in the app. I was like, ugh, you're just doing this to random girls? This is disgusting. Like, disgusting.
I matched with a guy, and the first message that he sent me, like, there's not even my bubble. It's just his message was, sit on my face. And I was like, huh? This can't be real life. That's literally what I messaged him before I blocked him. Like, this can't be real life.
This can't be real life. But it is. It is.
Open. But then it's like, who's saying okay to this? Or like, who's entertaining this? Or who's,
I wonder. Somebody has to be.
I wonder,
There's
because
some crazies.
there has to be somebody that's saying yes for them to be so confident and comfortable to shoot
What
that
they
shot.
say, you can get 100 no's. All you need is one yes. So they just keep trying. I would say one of the best advice I could give is being careful to make sure you have the vetting process with asking the questions before you even go out on the date, because you will have guys who will say they're looking for long term. That may be the only thing they actually have, because I went out on a date with a guy like this. He had long term in his profile. We went out on the date, and on the date he asked me, what if I had put that I'm also looking for short term? I said, well, then I wouldn't have swiped on you. And then he then goes to say, but I'm also looking for short term. And then proceeds to ask me at the end of the night to come to his house. So that was a waste of time. But I will say I did not properly vet him before we went on the date. He offered to take me out that night. I was feeling like I'm not doing anything. I looked at it as an excuse to get out. I didn't talk to him on the phone. I didn't do my usual questions, which are, what is it that you're actually looking for? Can you see that in like, how long do you think you want to date until you get to that point? Sometimes you really can't determine that, but it can be a question, because some guys, they're looking like maybe next year. Some guys are looking like in a couple of months, like it's been a while. When was your last date? Oh, I just got out of a relationship. Ooh, red flag.
Yeah.
Because you still need some time to get yourself together. Right?
Yeah. And that gray area where people can dip back, that's also an issue as well.
Mm-hmm.
Completely out of your system. Like, or even if you think you got them out of your system, don't bring me into the fold for you to just transfer all that
Unhealed energy.
Yeah, unhealed but unprocessed energy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if my ex used to believe just like that. Like, you mean,
talking about the ex the entire time? That is a big red flag for me, because obviously you're not over it. I don't even like talking about exes. If they bring it up, I'll talk about it matter-of-factly, but I don't want to have long conversations about my exes. I don't want to hear long conversations about yours, especially not on the first date. I don't mind talking about dating experiences.
Yeah. I love the dating experience, because tell me, what was your worst date?
Right.
I just cut this dude off because on the first conversation, he was talking about his ex-wife, and he was talking about her like kind of like in the present tense still. And I was like,
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna just be very transparent. I still was like, all right, let me just kind of see this thing through, or what's the word, for the plot twist now. I'm in it for the plot.
Yeah, do it for the plot.
For me personally, because I'm 5'9", I'm very tall, and so people generally get a lot of tall guys. And he was 6'5", and I was like, I just need to get to the first date, if nothing else. Let me just get to the first date.
Right.
I think I for the other episode. And so I gave him the time of day to at least just go on a first date. And on that first date, when I say his ex called like 5 times, I'm not even exaggerating.
Wow. So y'all did get to the first date and the ex was calling.
And the ex was calling, trying to make it seem like it was something going on with their daughter, which normally wouldn't be a red flag if the daughter wasn't a full grown 21-year-old woman.
Wow.
Why? Is it death? Is she in the emergency? Do you have to go bail her out? Why are we continuing to take these calls?
Yeah.
And so, of course, but if I wasn't in it for the plot, or just, kind of see it through for the hype thing, that first conversation was really like, well, even then I knew from the first phone conversation, I was like, I'm not going to be able to make any real investment in this man because he's still stuck on this woman. But the key with him was they had been divorced since 2019. So it was like, that's a good years. Why
was there
why are we still?
Well, the question is, was there any therapy done in between?
Sure.
So that's the thing. Of course you're not healed. I mean, I carried my stuff with me for 10 years. It takes a long time if you don't unravel that stuff. If you just put it back there, it's just in the back. It's still there.
Time is healer.
Time is not healing. I think that's a great that's a great point. A lot of people kind of get stuck on. They think because, well, girl, I'm just taking myself off the dating scene. Dating sucks. So I'm just going to be back here and I'm going to do my own thing and I'm going to work on me. What are you doing? What are you doing in this time that you're not dating? Like, how are you healing in this work on me time? You know, I'm in my Bible.
You have to be intentional. You have to be purposeful as well. Like, it can't just be like, well, I'm just going to, because all you're doing is isolating yourself. And then once it comes time, you can isolate yourself for like 15 years. And then when it comes time to date somebody again, because you think you put the right amount of time, and it's like, oh no, I'm right back to that day when me and my ex broke up because I never processed anything. And I'm still transferring all my junk with him or her to the next person.
You're just in a freezer. You're just frozen. And if we bring it back to celibacy, right? We can say dating is so horrible. I'm just taking myself off the market for 5 years. It's kind of like, so you're just hoping it's going to get better when you jump back in. When you do decide to go back, is it just going to get better? Or are you going to try to learn some of the skills that it takes to be able to vet properly, to look properly, you know? And that's just practice. We think we're all supposed to be these dating warriors as soon as we get out just because we're grown. But hell no, you got to get out there and do your 10,000 hours. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you get lucky.
But that's the anomaly. It's not, I don't think it's not the normal. It's not the commonality. It's the anomaly. Exactly. You might meet somebody who's the polar opposite than, what you got out of, who's going to walk with you through that process. But most of the time, if you got whatever attachment and unhealed trauma, unhealed whatever, you come is healthy enough, they're going to be like, because they're protecting their peace and their boundaries. So they're not, take the time.
But yeah, they're smart. I'm not bringing you with me. Yeah. I did all my work. It took me 5 years to get to this point. I love you as my sister and my brother, but you got to do your own work. You got to do your own work.
Once you're done, if I'm still available, maybe we can talk.
Exactly. And that's going to take some time.
Heavy on the maybe, but it does take time. And I'm like knee deep in my own therapy journey, still doing stuff. And I'm like, I thought I was done with that. And my therapist was like, no, you actually been working on this for 3 years. And I'm like, we now.
Yeah.
Well, how much longer? Yeah. She's like, well, you can figure it out. And I'm like, that wasn't very helpful, but thank you.
Well, that's funny because that was going to bring up my final question, which is what's one of the things you learned about yourself during this journey and during your celibacy journey? What have you learned about yourself?
I've learned, the obvious, that my vetting process was trash. I vetting people properly. I was kind of just putting everything haphazardly. And I was going the notion that, love will heal all things, or that I will find somebody that will validate me.
All based off emotions.
I was very extremely emotional in how I go into things. And so what I'm trying to learn now is not being emotional, is the triangle, where's the feelings, thought process. And I'm trying to unlearn allowing my emotions to drive my thoughts, which drive my actions. So now I'm trying to unlearn backwards. And so that's the thing about myself, that I was very emotionally driven and validation driven. I looked to men for validation. And even though I looked to men for validation, it was never enough. Even when I would get the validation, it would only last for like 2 seconds. And then they'd still be like, well, do you really love me? I just showed you that I did. It was like, but it should feel different. It's like, no, because my appetite wasn't satiated. So when I start isolating what the feeling is and where that started, and that's the hard work. I'm in that process right now where I'm just now coming into the understanding that it started as little girl me, not even adolescent, like little girl me, healing and mothering that little girl process so that when I get into a relationship the next time, or as I go into the relationship, I can vet the person properly. And if they validate me, it'll just be a cherry on top and not a necessity.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. It is, because it's true. I mean, I think you got into the point where you're supposed to be, where you actually start genuinely healing. Because I remember getting to that same place too, where it's just about being able to be secure within yourself. And like you said, healing that little girl, finding out that your anxious attachment comes from that little girl. That, I think we talked about this on our last podcast, that one event, it didn't just happen with who you're talking to. You felt this feeling before, that feeling, and then you have to find that feeling. And most important, that lesson I learned was the ugly part is sitting in it. Is nobody wants to sit in the uncomfortable, right? That's why we put it in the back. That's why you can go 6-10 years and say, oh, well, I took myself off the market, but you didn't heal the stuff. You didn't even confront the stuff. And you have to be willing to bring it back up, to set it all on the table, to sort through it. We're scared of that. But once you are able to sit with yourself, the good, the bad, the ugly, especially the ugly, the part you don't want to look at, once you're like, oh, this is a part of me. Oh, you're right. I didn't want to have kids at 19, but I still did it anyway. And I think I'm a bad mother. Well, what makes you think you're a bad mother? Unpacking all that, like those little things that break away at your security, your self-esteem. That's what's messing you up in your relationships. And having to sit down and break it down. So just like you, I had to do the work, and sitting with myself was the big key. And learning to, now that you have that self-esteem back, you're like, I'm not putting up with no man. I'm not going back to that BS I was with the first time. I'd rather be by myself. That's why I'm celibate. We can end on that note. That's why I'm celibate. Yeah. Because until you can do for me what I can do for me, because I learned to do for me what I expected of other people. Now you got to be just as good as me.
Time is the new currency for me. In this stage of my life, I don't have an abundance left. And then on a day-to-day basis, I don't have a lot to give. So it's literally my currency. And so I don't give no more people, because if I'm not going to give no more people just time, that doesn't produce nothing at the end of it. And sometimes I feel like that's what my past relationships have been, without the proper vetting process, because I wasn't healed.
Yes. Taking up too much time. Stuff you know now, what shouldn't have even worked out if you had just looked at the signs in the beginning. Like I can tell you right now, looking at somebody who sends me a certain message, how they send it to me, whether or not I just need to cut this off or not. I had a guy, and this would be like the last story, but I had a guy recently, and I have it on my threads too. He hit me up and was like, I want to take you to this really nice dinner. It was a nice place downtown. Then he's like, and then afterwards we're going to go dancing. And I was like, cool. I love a man who just tells me where to be. Because he's like, meet me here at this time, and this is where we're going. I was like, great. Till the next day, he hits me up, and this one when it was raining on Thursday. And he goes, you know what? We can still do the dinner on Saturday, but I want to see you right now. I'm like, sir, it's raining. About to just leave out of my house and come see you in this rain. And he goes, well, then I need you to video chat me right now. And at first I thought it was, he was worried that I was a catfish or something. But he was like, you know, you keep running around and beating around the bush. I said, well, my hair's not done. I'll video chat you later. We can do a phone call for now. He goes, no, video chat me right now. That's the deal. I said, you know what? I already know this ain't gonna work out. Because first off, you're way too demanding. Sounds like you're impatient. I can't deal with this. Come to find out, I posted it on my threads and people were like, oh, that's an abuse tactic. They're trying to get you to see how much you're willing to let down your boundaries right in the beginning. And that type of stuff turns them on. So he's like, if he didn't get it from you, he's going to go and do it to the next person. So, you know, sometimes it's good to share too, sharing your experiences. I don't think I would have gotten that. I was thinking he thought I was a catfish. People are like, oh no, definite abuser. And I follow my gut too. So that's one of those things you learn, the boundaries as well.
Yeah. And trusting your intuition like you did.
And trusting your intuition. But on that note, girl, I know you got to go. It's almost 2:00. I got to get out of here too. I want to thank you for coming on and talking about our celibacy journey together. Is there any last notes you want to say on your way out of here?
I think you summed it up best. Trusting your instinct, trusting your gut, and doing the work. If you do the work, you'll be able to trust your gut and your instinct.
Yes.
I think that's
and maybe you can get rid of this abstinence celibacy journey for whatever reason you're doing it. If you're doing it to get married, all the best to you as well. And if you're just doing it to find your man or your boo thing, all the best to you as well.
There's no wrong journey to abstinence.
Yes. There's no wrong journey to abstinence / celibacy / whatever we want to call it, right? Okay. All right, y'all. I will see y'all next week. Thank you, Nickole, for stopping through. And
thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hello Me, It's Me with Nikki D. Lovely. Just remember, you can't change who you were yesterday, but you can always learn and grow to become a better version of yourself today. So make sure you do the mental work today for the future you tomorrow, and I will see you next week. And in the meantime, make sure that you check me out on my Instagram at Nikki D. Lovely or _broke_mama. You can also find me at nikkidlovely.com and check out my book, No F Boys Allowed. I also have a poetry book coming out pretty soon, so just a little shameless plug. But either way, I will see you guys next time, and thanks again.